All right, this is going to be a quick little stream, maybe about half an hour. This is commission subscription AQJL. This is 3 eliminators, which we assembled and primed this morning. And they're ultramarines, but the client in this case has requested urban camo. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine our pre-shade with our camo. So the basic plan is to pre-shade the model, but oversaturate the front of the model, undersaturate the cloak, and then as that cures, layer it up with these Fallout Hobby stencils. So this is a layering process. It takes several passes to make this work. So the first thing we're going to do is just pre-shade these guys, and then after the pre-shade goes on, we can start to layer it up. For anyone that's hanging out, I appreciate it, but this is going to be a really short stream. I really can't emphasize that enough. The purpose of these streams is just to provide proof of concept for clients on our subscription service, which is called the Collector loosely. It's a series of different commission service levels. Pre-shading is basically applying white from a top-down perspective to a model. Some people do it with gray. I've also seen it with other colors, but traditionally it's white. Some people call it zenithal highlighting. In the old days, it was more locally referred to as overspray, but overspray, generally speaking, by today's terminology, refers more to a really heavy layer of paint, like a base coat. Sorry for all the background noise. This is a loud stream. Got an air conditioner going because it's hot in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I'm streaming from. I also have a compressor on. So I'm going to demonstrate the pre-shade on this Marine for a different client. This is a Raven Guard Space Marine. I had layered some paint on this guy a couple days ago, but it didn't react well with the underlying layer, and the paint kind of crackled. So I had to strip it and reprime. That doesn't happen very often. Even here you can see I'm getting a lot of speckle. I don't know what that's about. So we're going to wash out our paint cup and try again. I don't know why. Sometimes the airbrush gets a little sticky towards the end of a session, so it could be buildup. It could also be that our primer is, for whatever reason, not performing well. We're using golden primer. Golden makes really high quality paints, really rich pigments. This color is called titanium white. And it was our go-to color at the studio for white. Whew, man, that's a lot of speckle. What is going on here? Sometimes when you get this kind of buildup, it's because you got a lot of stuff on the front of your airbrush. In this particular case, it might be hard to see, but the needle had a lot of black buildup from our priming earlier this afternoon. Okay, so there you can see it's coming out a little bit better. Still quite a bit of buildup. I'll definitely have to wash this thing tonight. But the only real question is, will this work when applied to this guy? So this is a Raven. It's going to be a Raven Guard Librarian. The basic goal here is just to get the robes white. I want the white to be a really stark contrast to the black armor. So I'm going to start with the back. Okay, that's not bad. You can still see there's still a little texture from the other day. I don't know what that is. It's a little weird reaction. The goal with a pre-shade is just to lay down. This stick is getting in my way. I have to move it. Just to lay down some basic color, get something on the model. Essentially, you're sort of They used to call it an illustration level, where you were trying to figure out where your values on the model were, where your brightest brights would be, where your darkest darks would be. Preston used to call it a grayscale, where you're trying to establish values between 1 to 10, with 10 being absolute black, 1 being absolute white. You wanted every value represented on the model. In practice, that's pretty hard to do, but on high-level models, it's certainly possible. On a model like this, what we're trying to do is just create basic shading. So we've got white down. Obviously, we're going to have to go over the armor with black, but that's okay. And since we have our basic color on, now we just want to modulate color. So a few of these spots we want to pick out and make them extra bright. By default, it will make other parts of the cloak look dark. So I'm picking the biggest flaps, the widest flaps. In general, drawing interest to the face is always a good idea. But on Raven Guard, because they're black, it's a little tougher. All right. I'm not going to do much more on that, because what I really want to do is be able to layer up the rest by brush. I want to be able to go in and highlight by brush, so I don't want to oversaturate it. A little bit down there, and we're going to call that fine. So that's a good example of how to pre-shade. It's a little oversaturated, but that's okay. Again, we're going to be working on this model separately. So now we're going to apply that to the eliminators. The basic idea is to catch the armor plates and try really not to catch the cloak if we can avoid it. Some overspray will hit the cloak, and that's okay. Now his face mask is going to basically be metal. So there's really no advantage to going up to the face at this point. And the gun is going to be black casing. So the only real places I really have to hit are the arms. And I'm seeing now a small assembly error. It's not huge, but it's a little noticeable. I'm going to have to fix that. It's hard to see, but if you look closely, you can see that there's a separation on the wrist. And that's my fault. I built these guys this morning. So my best guess is just that as I was building them, I just was rushing, or it slipped out or something. I'm not sure. These guys generally go together pretty well. So I'll give that a minute to cure so my fingers won't get on it, and then I'll go back and fix it. All right. Again, trying, oh, well, this one sucks because he's got these little nubs sticking out of his backpack. Guess we'll have to hit those too. Which by default means we're going to get some color on the cloak. This one has a little bit more of his face exposed, not a lot, but just a little bit. So, not sure if I should do that blue or black. In the box art, it's a little blue, so I'm going to try to hit it with some white so that I can pre-shade it. All right. A little bit of white left. I'm going to do this guy's backpack real quick since all right. Hey. Yeah, but I can pause it. Well, the camera's just playing down. I can't see. Are you making it or you want me to make it? I'm making it. Okay. So I was thinking maybe I do something here. Okay. So I call that some yeah, love you. It's unusual to have to do this kind of a repair on a model like this because the newer models generally go together really well, but I guess in this particular case, I just missed something. I'm seeing there's this scope on here that kind of attaches to his eye, and I'm wondering if maybe that was the problem. Like if it pushed out and I didn't attach it correctly that way. The good news is a little bit of glue will solve that. I'm going to have to let it cure, and that may mean that I need to touch up that area of paint or primer. So that sucks, but that's okay. Not the end of the world. I'm using basic super glue and an accelerator. In this particular case, I'm using these from Magnet Baron. He has his own brand of super glue and accelerator, which I have found works really well. But any super glue should work. All right, there we go. So that's all fixed up. Okay, so the next step on these guys is basically to lay down a urban camo pattern on their back, on their cloaks. Now, alternately, because these guys are Space Marines, I could go ahead and lay down their blues now, and then lay down the urban camo afterwards, re-black the cloak, and then do the urban camo. And I think I might be more inclined to try that. So I think what I'm going to do is just lay down a layer of blue, and then probably just call that a day. So I'm going to grab some blue. So our go-to recipe for ultramarines is an undershadow of indigo and an overshadow of, or an overspray of French Blue by Vallejo. French Blue is it's just a really good color. It's really rich. It uses phthalo blue, which is a very rich pigment. All right, so this is golden blue. I'm going to do the guy that I just glued last because I want his color to have the longest to cure. So with an underspray, we're basically just coming in from underneath and trying to apply a little bit of shadow. Not a whole lot. Because the eliminators have a 40 millimeter base, it's actually kind of hard to hit the right areas with them. And unfortunately, by default, you're going to catch some of the raised armor plates. Like you can see here on the knee, it's wrapped around to the top. But, you know, that's part of it. We can always touch that up with a little primer. I do like that color a lot. It's really nice, clean. All right, French Blue is just a really rich blue. I can see that I'm very low. I'm gonna have to order some more before we paint more of these guys. Okay, so there you can see a pretty good representation of it. The nice thing about French Blue as well is that it saturates well. So the more you nurture the color, the cleaner it gets. And overall, that is the desired outcome, is that you get rich shadows with a pretty vibrant top coat. Obviously, we have a lot of overspray, but that's okay. Some portions of the model didn't get the pre-shade the same way. So like this arm, the shoulder panel, for example, is pretty dark. So I could, in theory, go back and, I guess, reshade it. But instead of that, I think what I'm just going to do is just oversaturate it a bit. And the end result should be a nice, even coat. Because these guys are assassins, maybe they're skulking in the shadows or something. That's one of the problems with doing a bunch of projects on the same day for a bunch of different clients, is that it's easy to get confused. But the nice thing about this is if we don't like the graduation of color. We just reapply a little bit of white tomorrow when it's fully cured and go from there. So that gives us a nice solid base coat, really clean. Under the camera, it looks super shiny, but that will mellow out once it cures. And because of how bright these blues are, anything I put in the airbrush at this point is probably going to have a little derivative blue left in it. But because I'm low on blue, I don't want to waste it. So I'm just going to look around one more time, make sure I hit every portion of the model. And I'm going to let washes do my cleanup tomorrow if I need to. That back foot right there can use a little color. He's not wearing anything, so I'm not going to put any blue on his face. And let's touch you up one more time. The less you go over the colors, the more natural the graduation will look. So, when possible, try to avoid oversaturating. But Vallejo colors are normally really nice and transparent. So yeah, not bad. All right, so we're going to let that fully cure overnight and come back to it tomorrow. And we're going to let our airbrush sort of set. We've worked it really hard today, so we're going to give it a chance to take a break, wash the tip out, get all the primer gunk out. And that'll be about it. So thanks for hanging out with us today. I know my arm is literally right in front of the camera right now, but I'm reaching for a wrench. This is my first day streaming since this whole thing started. So this is kind of a return to form for me. I appreciate you guys hanging out. It's important to note that we have not been inactive during this time. We've just been focused on other stuff. Part of the problem was, as I kind of mentioned on an earlier stream, of the business was at the end of its lease. So we had to get all of that stuff done during this period, which included like wrapping it up and cleaning the building and sorting out the deposit. And our painters were settling back home. So then on top of that, we had to make sure our finances were in order. So we sold off a lot of surplus equipment. We've been selling off computers and spare paints and that sort of stuff. So it's just been crazy the last couple months. But I look forward to talking more about it on these streams, kind of using it as an opportunity to kind of fill people in on where things are going, what I'm looking forward to in the future. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. All right, well, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. Oh, thanks for hanging out again.